David Lynch's death. Oh yeah, what's up, Kurtzer85 back. Uh, David Lynch's death is really making me upset right now. Just thinking about it. It's really sad, and I'm kind of late. It's been a few weeks, I think. And I feel like I wish I could have given him. Not that he knows me, but I wish I could have given him the honor of watching all of his movies before he passed, because whenever he passed, I had only seen Eraserhead and Mulholland Drive, and that might be it. And now I've only seen Blue Velvet and Lost Highway on top of that. So it's like, I don't know. But he was out there making movies that people weren't ready for and that people couldn't understand, but were so good. Like, people did want them, obviously, but he was just so smart and so, like, good at what he did, and he was, like, had a future of making more things, and he just, like, died, and it's like, whoa. I think it was, like, pretty expected, like, they knew it was gonna happen soon, his family, but it's just, like, another artist that has died, and it's like, who is gonna make movies like David Lynch anymore, you know? I don't think anybody could match what David Lynch was doing. And so it actually makes me sad that we're not gonna like get to see any more art from him and like his thought process, because his brain, like, as messed up as it probably was at times because of the stuff he made, or like I can tell that it was because of the stuff he made, not the stuff he made him like that, but you could tell that he like thought in a very unique and like interesting way that like was unmatched at that time and now. Like, no one can recreate something that David Lynch has made, and I just think that's so cool. And it makes me really sad that he's gone, I guess, is another thing, because it's like, I don't know, it's like I've been thinking about it a lot, and I don't know why, but it's like all I can think about. Even though like I really loved Eraserhead and Mulholland Drive, I don't know why I didn't watch the rest. It was just they seemed too daunting for me at the time. I was just like, oh my gosh, like his movies just seemed so like much, and so I just wouldn't watch them. I guess I would do an easier movie, but you know, I wish I could have like watched the movies that he made before he passed, because I think he deserves that respect, because I could have handled them, and I was just like dramatic about it, and I was like, I can't watch them right now. Yeah. And you can also tell from like behind the scenes footage and like just the way he was talked about by other people that he was like such a kind person, and like, I don't know, from what I've heard, and that like he was like good to work with, and the people that, and like he had a consistent like cast of people that worked with him because he was so dedicated to like creating what he saw as like what his vision was. Like, he was dedicated to his vision, and that's so cool. Like, I want to reach David Lynch's level of security and, I don't know, intellect maybe, but I don't know how he got there, for first of all, but like now it's too late. Now I can't learn. And obviously there's tons of footage of David Lynch and like interviews that he did, and like it's obviously not too late to learn about David Lynch, but just something about the fact that he's like gone, it just feels like weird now, and part of it feels like I'm hopping onto like a bandwagon almost of like, you know, when someone dies and everybody's like, I was so close to them, I loved them so much, but they didn't actually know them. They're like posting about it. They're like, oh, he was such a kind person. I loved him so much. I loved them so much. You know, we were so close. that's what I feel like trying to catch up on all the stuff of David Lynch that I haven't watched. Because I can't even say it's like in memory because I haven't seen, like I hadn't seen Blue Velvet until yesterday. So it's like I'm it does feel like I'm hopping onto like a bandwagon of sorts. But I feel like that's what happens whenever any like artist dies, like when any artist passes away, like after Juice World passed, everyone was like glazing his music. Everyone was like, "Oh, his music was so good; it meant so much to me forever." Even though like his music was kind of mid. All respect to Juice World, but that's like the opposite of David Lynch, where his stuff is just like undeniably great. Like 90% of people love David Lynch's work, even if it's like not the most accessible all the time. Even though I watched Blue Velvet, and Blue Velvet is like pretty accessible, and like his like usual themes and like strategies are still there, and it's still very like intellectual and like I don't know, it can be like you can read into it really well. Like you can read into it, but it's not like a normal David Lynch movie where you have to read into it necessarily. Like there's a more solid narrative going in that movie, which I was actually a fan of. I thought it was a really great movie, and I mean Mulholland Drive is like probably my favorite, or Eraserhead. Eraserhead is probably my favorite, and those are very like you kind of have to read into it to understand what's going on in the fucking movie. Which I'm a fan of too. I like rewatching those types of movies and just like, but Blue Velvet's very good and accessible. Anyways, I want to like binge all of David Lynch's movies now because I'm just like, I feel like I should, but also I don't want to be a fan. You know, I want to be a fan, but I don't want to be like fan behavior, like, or pick me behavior where I'm like, I love David Lynch. I always have. I've watched all his movies. Like if I go around and saying like I've watched all of David Lynch's movies, I miss him so much. Like after I watch all of his movies, then that would be fake of me because I hadn't watched them before he had passed, and so I can't act like I've always been a fan. Like I was a fan of a few of his movies before. I went to a midnight screening of Eraserhead, by the way, which was so cool. Best way to watch it. Um, I did doze off for like a minute, but that's just because it was midnight, not because of the movie. But I wasn't like a knower of his discography. I haven't watched Twin Peaks yet. I haven't watched Inland Empire. It's like I'm not the biggest David Lynch fan out there. I guess I don't have to be the biggest David Lynch fan out there to like say that I miss David Lynch and like his work. I can say that, but I guess I couldn't be like I'm the biggest fan. I don't know what I'm really talking about right now. I guess also just the way he directs his movies is really inspiring to me from what I have seen. Like it's so distinctly him. Like you could tell. Like I don't know how he does it. But even in Blue Velvet, which is like completely different than Eraserhead, for example, you could still show me both of those movies back to back, and I could tell you that they're both directed by David Lynch, you know? Like there's clear signs of his director status, and I think that's a good sign of a director, and I think like if you can tell that a certain director directed a movie, then that means that they're a good director. And like I'm not saying that's always the case, but you know, I think that's the case with like good directors. Like you can always tell a Nolan movie is a Nolan film, or that a Stanley Kubrick movie is a Stanley Kubrick movie. So David Lynch has that status. It's really cool. I don't know, but the way he directed and like worked with people and just how smart all of his movies are it's just so cool to me how much like care and thought was obviously put into every project he worked on, and like how uncaring he was of what people thought of his movies, because I'm sure a handful of people hated Mulholland Drive and Eraserhead when it came out, but his like his style is consistent through his discography. From what I know so far, I haven't watched all of it, but they're all like equally David Lynchian. So he stuck to the people that loved him. Like he stood beside them and he said, this is what y'all want. I'm going to give you what you want. I'm going to keep doing what I love. I'm not going to change what I'm doing for, like, Hollywood. Like, I'm just going to keep doing this. And the people that acted in his movies knew that too, and they stayed with him for that because they were in it for, he wasn't in it for money. They weren't in it for money. They were in it for the art. I think that's something that I'm really going to miss. That's maybe getting to the core of, like, my sadness for it, is that he's, like, a director that was out there that was, like, very much not for the money. Like, very much an artist and a pure artist. I feel like there's, like, an overwhelming amount of, like, directors out there right now that are just, like, shitting out shit just to get money. And I'm not saying every director is like that, but I think every director, you can feel that coming out of their movies to a certain extent. Like, even M. Night Shyamalan, I don't know why his name is coming to my head, but, like, I think his last few movies have been, like, really artful. Like, I like them, but I can still feel a layer of, like, he does want to make a certain amount of money off of this, and he is trying to appeal to people. But that wasn't what, like, David Lynch, that was never, like, his, like, motto. Like, he was always just, like, trying to make what was true to him. And I think that's something that, like, really inspires me, is just how unflinching he was on, like, his vision and what he wanted, and he was like, this is what I'm going to make, and you can support it if you want. You don't have to, but I'm going to make it, and you're not going to change that. And that is really cool. And that's not, like, helpful for me right now necessarily. Like, no one's trying to get me to change what I'm doing, but I think it can be helpful in the future. It's just, like, a good lesson, and it's he's so cool. And I liked his hair. I thought his hair was cool. David Lynch hair moment. I'm gonna get a David Lynch haircut. That would be epic. I don't know what else I have to say about him. I'm just very sad that he's gone. It's just a very sad thing when someone dies. And I think there was, like, it was coming, but I don't know, it's still sad. And so, yeah, I'm going to try and watch as much David Lynch as I can coming up. I want to watch Twin Peaks, the show. The thing is, shows are so daunting for me, so it's like, maybe I'll watch it, maybe I won't. I want to get through his filmography, though. I really need to watch Inland Empire, which is very long, but I would watch it, and Wild at Heart. Just, like, all of his movies, because I want to honor him, and it's very sad that he passed. So, in memoriam of David Lynch, love you. I think your work is incredible, and I think you're incredible. And I think you're incredible. So that's going to be it for me. Don't look at my pimple. Kurtzer85. Out.